population are fully vaccinated, and anyone aged 18 and over can register for a vaccine. The Economic Recovery Plan is helping people get back to work and supporting businesses. So let's protect this progress. For more information and full details on indoor dining, see gov.ie/recovery. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Petrol or electric? Petrol or electric? Why choose petrol and electric? Discover the BMW plug-in hybrid range. Visit your BMW retailer or find out more at bmw.ie. Sometimes electric, always BMW.
Taking time out to visit a healthcare professional isn't always convenient.
Okay, directions to my GP appointment.
Stand up, walk 3 metres to your couch.
That's why at Irish Life Health, we visit you. With My Clinic, our members get virtual access to back and neck physiotherapy, professional counselling, unlimited GP consultations and more. Search Irish Life Health. Services available where covered in your plan and clinically appropriate. Professional counselling available to age 16 plus. Back and neck physio to age 18 plus. Irish Life Health DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Terms and conditions apply.
It's started. The Pamela Scott Massive Summer Sale is now on, with up to 50% off your favourite brands. That's right, the Pamela Scott Massive Summer Sale is now on, in all stores nationwide and online at pamelascott.com. Don't miss out.
The stylish range of Belling kitchen appliances are renowned for quality and reliability. In addition, Belling appliances come with a full 2-year warranty for your peace of mind. For more information, go online to powercity.ie or call in store today.
There's lots to love at Aldi, like being the most awarded supermarket at the National Parenting Product Awards with 22 awards, including golds for Mamiya Nappy Sacks 99 cent, the Mamiya Organic Baby Food range from 69 cent, Mamiya Air System nappies from 2.79 and Mamiya Newborn Nappies 24-pack just 1.39. Not yet using the Mamiya range? Definitely time for a change. Aldi, every day amazing.
The 2021 British and Irish Lions Tour.
On Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah, you're very welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. Shane Hannon with you for the next hour. We've been live from 1 o'clock until 8 p.m. this evening. And what a Lions test we've just watched. South Africa 17, British and Irish Lions 22. The Lions players just watching them on the pitch at the moment after the match, delighted with themselves in a little circle, hugging each other, delighted with that result. Warren Gatland, undeniably, big smile on his face up in the stand as well. Colin Dickey with the try for the Lions, Dan Bigger as well with the boot. 4 penalties and 1 conversion for him. Owen Farrell came off the bench as well to kick a crucial penalty towards the end to extend the lead from 2 points to 5. And the South Africans, I mean, really at half time it looked well and truly in their hands, led by 12 points to 3. But what a second half performance that was by the British and Irish Lions. I mean, that's one of the biggest comebacks you'll ever see in terms of character, desire, heart. The Lions really showed everything in that second half, and delighted to be joined. I'll be joined in a second by Alan Quinlan. But first, Brian O'Driscoll, who was on commentary with Neil Tracy for that match. Brian, you probably haven't had time to get your breath, and I know Quinny's with us now as well. It was quite an extraordinary second half we just watched.
A really amazing second half. They were, lucky to be second best in the first half. Everything was, everything was the Springboks. Their set piece, the breaking ball, their kicking game, the whole shoot match was in Springboks' favour, and they went around and managed to completely change things in the course of a 10-minute or 15-minute interval and come out, and they seemed to be the ones that won all the 50-50s. They became collision winners, and they took their opportunities, they kicked their goals. Guys that had been anonymous in the first half, like Courtney Laws, had an outstanding second half. Alan Wynne-Jones came back, having been very quiet in that first half as well. Henshaw was very good, Conan good. So lots of individual standout performers. And then the bench, when they came on, did a phenomenal job as well. But I have to say, looking at the tactics of the Springboks and changing that front row at half-time, which was obviously a preconceived decision, came back to really shoot them, because their front row had set a phenomenal platform, had the Lions scrum in major trouble, and then when the replacement scrum front row came on, they really didn't do a huge amount. They didn't have the dynamism, the ball carrying of the tight and loose head in the first half. So I think it's a real miss from the Springboks, as brilliant as it is from a Lions perspective.
Should mention the 2021 British and Irish Lions tour on OTB Sports, brought to you with Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Quinny, what was said, do you think, at half time? Because chalk and cheese between the first half and second half for the Lions.
It was a bit like Tip and Limerick last week, Shane. In the hurling, I think the Lions would have been kind of angry with their application, their aggression. The discipline was poor, and I think they were South Africa were really good in the first half. I thought they were in complete control, and I thought they were going to kick on and win the test easily. But the try after half time from Cowan Dickey, that changes everything. It gives confidence, and as Drico said, the aggression was so much better. Enthusiasm, accuracy, and everything they did. The match was as a spectacle to watch. If you're looking for open rugby and exciting rugby, it was shocking. It was a kick fest. It was pressure. It was counter rucking. It was smashing each other in tackles, and that's all fine. And Warren Gatland won't care what the game looked like to anyone else. He's won the first test, and that's been really important. Complete turnaround the second half. They started to win apply the kick pressure. They started winning balls in the air, the aerial battle. Any loose balls that bounced around, it seemed to land on a Lions player's hand. And they just kept forcing the scoreline and kicking the penalties. And once they got themselves ahead, I think that psychologically was huge for them. And I think they managed the game. Conor Murray's box kicks, which we know he can do very, very well, were brilliant when he came on. And I think Farrell being in the mix as well was really important to the Lions, and complete turnaround. And I do agree with Drico. He doesn't know a lot about front rows, but he was bang on the money when he said changing the whole front row for the South Africans. I think Jack Nienaber probably made that decision based on the lack of preparation and COVID in the Springbok camp in the last few weeks, that they were the guys who were going to tire first. But I thought Kanye and Enche were brilliant, and Bombay were brilliant, and Bombanambi was brilliant as well, the hooker. So I think it just didn't work for them, and they seemed to really tire in that second half. But it was a mixture of the lines.
Sorry to interrupt you, but do you not think that a good coach comes in and realises that his front row are absolutely firing, and you don't take them off when they're at the top of their game? You let them go for another 10 or 15 minutes and see how it plays out in the second half. But to change them all at half time and think, all right, we'll make an impact with the next crew, and they don't, that's a tactical error.
Yeah, definitely. If you look at Robbie Henshaw's break, Drico, in the first half when he gets through, Enche was the one that was tracking Ali Price, the loose head prop. That's how dynamic he is, and that's how energetic and fit he looked. He's gone at half-time then, as you say. And look, Jack Nienaber, this is his first head coach role. He's had to make these big... Look, I'm sure he was talking to Razzie about it, but I never, ever, ever liked, in my own playing career, and I don't like it now, the preconceived decision to make changes on 50 minutes while we're bringing on two back rows. You leave guys out there if they're doing it, and if they're doing the job. And look, it backfired on them. If they won the game, we'd all say, and they'd probably be justified in the decision. But I just think they're so dynamic, those two props. And they were a loss. Kitsoff and Malherbe, they looked tired, and they looked like they didn't make any sort of an impact. But you've got to give credit to the Lions. I think the forward pack, Atoje was brilliant. Furlong was brilliant as well. And they were very aggressive. And Jack Conan, I thought he had an outstanding game. Some great carries, full of energy, made loads of tackles, and they didn't have to do a lot once they got themselves nudged ahead. And I thought when it was only 17-13 and they gave away a penalty, South Africa, I just thought the Lions are hanging in here. And even after the try they scored in the second half from Faf de Klerk, once once the Lions got the penalty, I think it closed that gap to 4 points, and then you're not shaking them off, and that was the problem for South Africa. I thought they were not alone with some of the decisions they made about the substitutions, but they played 2 phases, and Faf de Klerk slows the breakdown and kicks it up in the air. And then they were losing those balls. Okay, they won them in the first half. So I think they needed to change a little bit and try and play some rugby, and it backfired on them today, particularly in that second half.
Yeah, apparently it's the second biggest comeback ever to win a test by the Lions. The only bigger deficit overturned was 10 points at the halftime break against the Springboks in Newlands back in 1938 to win 21-16. Brian, was it a case of, because even just before halftime, you're sitting there looking at Dan Biggar missing a couple of penalties, big boy rugby, but it's also no miss rugby, and there was a couple of misses just before halftime, and the Springboks were going for the jugular just before halftime as well, kicking into touch. I mean, what went wrong for them in that second half, or was it more so the Lions just upped their game?
I think it was probably a combination of the two. I think as the game dragged on, they definitely did look as though they tired. I do think that front row impact was significant. Malherbe and Kitsoff did nothing in the loose. They were brought on to scrummage, and I don't know if they got one penalty from scrummaging in that second half when the other front row were quite dominant. It felt as though they were trying to sit on their lead a little bit, and as Quinny said, the momentum of the game shifts when Luke Cowan-Dickey scores that try and gets within one score, and then it's game on. South Africa score first in that second half, and it feels as though, oh no, we've got a serious uphill battle, and their chest swells. So it's those small moments, and you have to have things go for you in test match rugby. You need a little bit of luck, you need a bounce of a ball, but you also work on your own luck. And their intent, obviously, coming out from the off, they started the game brilliantly in the first minute. They got a penalty. Sloppy line-out defence from the Springboks gave good access deep into the Springbok territory. A second penalty, and then all of a sudden they're 5 or 7 metres from the line, and it's a great line-out drive. So it's just building those small moments in the game that ultimately leads towards getting yourself back into a game that you've barely featured in. And then it completely changes the mindset, where we've been on the back foot so much, and now all of a sudden they're tiring. We've got a bit of pep in our step, and this game is far from over. So I would be sick if I was the Springboks. They're in total control, and be it through their own mistakes or their own misgivings, they allowed the Lions back into the game, where they could have put that away in the first 15 minutes of the second half with a penalty or two or a score, and they just didn't manage to control the game the way they should have.
Quinny, do you think that's going to leave a psychological scar for the Springboks heading into the remaining tests? Because to blow a 12-3 halftime lead when you're playing so well, I mean, anytime they're ahead, if they are ahead in any of the remaining 2 tests, they're maybe going to start questioning themselves a little bit.
I think the Springboks will be better for this. They obviously needed the match, and they went back to Plan A, which has been very effective. They hadn't the ability to probably go to Plan B, which was to try and be a bit more expansive and start playing more rugby, because I think they were just out on their feet. So I think they'll actually be better for it. A lot of big players in there that psychologically it'll affect them for sure, right across the board, because very comfortable. You see Faf de Klerk when he kicked the ball out just before half time, springing their step, they're sprinting off the field. Totally different picture in the second half. So, I think the South Africans will get better as they go along, but the Lions need to improve dramatically. They're not going to. South Africa won't be that naive again tactically in like they were tonight in the second half. One area that I'd be pretty confident that I know a bit about is the line out. I just couldn't believe why South Africa, when they're chasing the game, I know you can't cover every position in the line out defensively, but they kept letting the Lions win it towards the front of the line out and trying to jam in at an angle to try and stop them from mauling. But even before the line out happens, I think if I'm a Lions player here and I'm any involvement in this decision, we're winning it, we're keeping it tight, and we're going to maul. We're trying to force a penalty or just try and rumble forward and control the pace and take the sting out of the Springboks. And they did that so often. They never really contested at the front of that line out. And credit to the Lions, their line out was good tonight, and it got him a lot of inroads in that second half, and they did the simple things really well, which was kick pressure. The kicks were good, but the pressure was really, really good as well. And it was a complete contrast to what we saw in the first half when South Africa kicked the ball up. Every loose ball seemed to bounce back and go into South African's hand. In the second half, it was a Lions player who scooped up any loose passes or loose balls there from those kicks. And, sometimes the luck can go against you. It's a 50-50 thing when there's two guys going through the air. But I just thought the intent out of the Lions players was so much better. And then South Africa just tried to keep... there's a couple of times they banged Dialinde up the middle. He got good gain line. Then they slow it down. They pass deep to Willie Leroux, and he tries to crossfield Gary Owen up and under, and they're going nowhere. It's just really poor. I thought they probably should have kicked longer and tried to find a bit of green grass in the backfield and see if they could get more territory rather than continuously going for the aerial battle.
You see Maro Itoje just on our TV screens there a moment ago picking up his Player of the Match award. Courtney Lawes, excellent as well throughout, it has to be said. Brian, for you, in terms of the Irish report card, like Quinny mentioned, Jack Conan carried the ball really well, Robbie Henshaw as well, and Tyke Furlong doing his usual job. Like, how did you see the Irish performances there today?
Yeah, I think solid performances. I thought Jack Conan, tried hard in the first half. Didn't get he was there for those hard, 1 or 2 yards. They were very difficult to come by in the first half. A little bit better in the second half. You'd probably need to look at his stats as about how many collisions he was involved in on the defensive side of things. I would imagine that's probably the impressive part of his game, but. He stayed the course for the whole lot of it. Robbie Henshaw, again, carried really well in the second half, was aggressive with some of those line-outs over the top, carrying ball into Yanchis and into Pollard, giving advantage on giving targets to his pack to come around the corner. And then Furlong, very solid scrum in the second half in particular. Again, by his standards, quite quiet in the first half, struggled a little bit in 1 or 2 scrums. So to turn it around the way he did, hugely impressed with him. But just on the point that Quinny mentioned, you see, negative rugby like that is fine when you're winning, but when you're losing, it looks horrific. And I don't think the Springboks passed the ball outside Damien Dialinde the whole day, barely. There was one other sequence of play maybe that they tried to shift it through a couple of sets of hands, and Robbie Henshaw batted the ball out of Lukhanyo Am's hands. So you've got one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in Cheslin Colby, and you have him chasing box kicks all day long. That is crazy. So next week they're going to have to play a little bit more open, a little bit more expansive, and give that their X Factor player more of an opportunity of creating something and doing what we have come to expect, be it in the green of the Springboks or in the red of Toulouse. He has been sensational since the World Cup, even not getting to play any test match rugby. So you can't have him running after box kicks, which he'll do for you because he's an honest player. But that is a difficult watch. I'm sure if you're a Springbok, it's a difficult watch, even as a Lion, as a rugby fan, of watching a guy like him trying to chase after 10, 15 box kicks in a game.
Clever captaincy at times as well, Brian, from Alwyn Jones. I mean, was it in just the start of the second half, going to the corner, had the option of the easy 3 points. Like, very often risk gets reward in Lions test, and Alwyn Jones made those big calls.
Yeah, and it's a difficult one. You're 9 points behind, that you get within one score by knocking that penalty over. I have to say, I don't know if I'd have gone to the corner myself, but obviously it was something they said, we're not going to go down without a fight, and we're going to need tries to get us back into the game, or we're going to need tries to win it, which they went to the line out, won a good line out, great line out maul, and then drove it over with a small bit of help with some of the backs right at the end. So very impressed. When that works out for you, brilliant captaincy. We might have been having another conversation if it hadn't gone to plan, but that's rugby. And I probably personally would have, if I was captain, would have kicked my goal and just tried to get away back in through 3-pointers, but they had the confidence to drive the Springboks over, which was the momentum shift that they needed to change their perspective on where this game was at.
O'Driscoll, could I just say, Shane, again, South Africa have a kick outside the 10-yard line and they go for the kick. It's a difficult one for Pollard. He misses. It's a complete contrast, isn't it? You know, I think I actually thought that was a mistake. I thought South Africa actually should have put that one down into the corner and tried to build some pressure, at least build some pressure in the lines 22. But he goes for a kick, and I just, you know, the way you just have this feeling with some kicks that they're a little bit too risky. It would have put them ahead. They were 19-17 down. Of course, it would have put them ahead, but he misses it a long way, you know, left to the post. And I just thought that was a big moment. And when you see, obviously, when things work out, when you make these decisions, you know, as a captain, you make a decision to go to the corner, you score the try, great decision. If you don't score, then teams, you know, people question it. But you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I really felt the Pollard one. My initial feeling was, if I was out there, I'd be saying, please go to the corner. It's too risky. It's too far.
The only thing is, it's pretty difficult, Quinny, if you're only a couple of points behind and it can put you in the lead. Whatever about chipping away at a lead that, you know, might be 2 scores or might be, you know, 6 or 7 points. To have an opportunity with a good field goal to actually retake the lead, I think it's difficult to turn that down, because you go to the corner and then nothing comes of it. It's like, well, you had a shot to go in front and now you haven't done anything. So for me, in those situations, if there's confidence from the kicker to go, yeah, I wouldn't mind a crack at this. It's a shot to nothing, but there's a great opportunity of me getting it. Worst case scenario, we'll get the ball back on a 22. I don't know. I think I probably would have gone for a 2, because again, it's a momentum shift. They take the lead and all of a sudden they go, right, we're back in the lead. You know, it just changes the opposition's perspective on going, oh no, now we have to go back and get another penalty. It mixes things up, and it's ebb and flow of the game. So for me, I would have gone for a shot, albeit he missed it by quite a bit.
I suppose when you're watching it, it's reactive analysis, or if you're doing commentary, and obviously when you look back at it and you add things up, yeah, you can get different perspectives on it. But I just felt, as I said, and Shane will want to move on, but I just felt they had no foothold in that lines 22 in the second half. And the game just had that feeling that it was slipping away from them. Every bouncing ball was going against them. And I just thought, they have an ability, go into the corner, you can win the line out, and then maybe try and, if you rumble a penalty in there, fine, kick it. But anyway, it didn't work out for him. Of course, if it went through the post, it would have been a great decision. But it wasn't to be for Pollard. He looked tired. He did.
He looked very tired.
He looked cumbersome in that second half. You know, he was in the backfield a lot, and I think he's a big fly half. He's strong. And, you know, they used him so well in that backfield in the second half as an extra defender back there, and someone who they'd nominate to go up and win the kicks. And he just looked like he lost a yard of pace there in that second half. And a lot of the South Africans did. And maybe it's understandable. It's not an excuse, I don't think. And I don't think Rassie Erasmus will come out making an excuse. But the bit of match practice and match fitness maybe kicked on. We've both been out in the field where sometimes you feel in great shape. You've loads of matches under your belt and you're kind of dead in your feet in the first half, but you get that second win and you can finish strong in a game. The opposite looked like for the South Africans, and then they started to make mistakes. So mentally and physically, I think they wilted in that second half.
Like, as you mentioned, Quinny, like these games are you know, based on moments, big moments, often in a test match, especially at Lions level, changes the game. And the Hamish Watson decision or lack of decision, I guess, to give him a card and let him stay on the pitch for that tackle on Willie LaRue, like, was he lucky to stay on the pitch, Hamish Watson, do you feel, or maybe was it the right decision by the TMO and the referee?
No, he was very lucky to stay on the field. I think Nick Berry had a good game. I think they're trying to not get the TMO in if they don't have to. I think he was pretty close to it. I think if Willie LaRue doesn't put out his hand and lets it come down his shoulder side of the head, it would have definitely been a yellow. I think he's very, very lucky that it wasn't a yellow. And again, it was a big moment. It was pretty silly. Now, he gets away with it, and Nick Berry is very close to the action. He says there's no force, there's no drive into the ground, but it was a big risk, and it could easily have been a yellow card for him.
Just looking at the pitch as well, and look, we're only, of course, looking at it on TV pictures, which is hard to tell when you're not up close and personal with it. But do you think, Brian, that the pitch cutting up, it looked like it was in terrible nick, to be fair, in Cape Town as the game wore on? Did that play into the Lions' hands? Is that a conspiracy that maybe doesn't really affect the game, or what? Do you think the pitch had any impact at all on the result?
I don't think that the Lions sent over any undercover groundsmen to try and dig it up a little bit to play into their hands. I don't know. I think you can read into and make any excuse you like, but ultimately, I did see the ground staff afterwards trying to fix lots of sods that were cutting up. It was a bit akin to sometimes playing in the Principality Stadium in Wales, the Millennium Stadium, formerly known as, where they were always changing the pitch, and they used to cut up something awful, and they couldn't actually get an awful lot of sunlight in there. I don't know what about the design of this stadium, but looking at the replays here, it does look as though it's badly cut up, and it'll be something that they're going to have to deal with over the course of the next 2 weekends again. But there was some pretty contentious stuff as well. We knew that the TMO was going to be called into play. I have to say that Hamish Watson, I'm just watching the replay here again, that's a yellow card all day. Like, he's lifted his one leg right above horizontal. If he doesn't get his left arm down there, if he hits the ground with his ball carrying right arm and head, that's a red card. So I don't know how that's not a yellow card. It's very, very fortuitous of Hamish Watson and the Lions, but you've got to ride your luck as well, and you're going to need that if you're going to win Test matches in South Africa, which they have managed to do, and they're halfway there.
Yeah, you need to get the rub of the green sometimes with these decisions, for sure. Brian, you remarked on commentary, Neil was asking you about we've spoken about Robbie Henshaw and decent game he's had, but that Henshaw-Daly partnership, not fully impressed with how they paired together?
No, I think on the basis of if you're trying to play the game that they're looking to play, and it's not Elliot Daly's game, it really isn't. And, with how aggressive the Springboks were, I wouldn't be shocked to see Chris Harris in the 13 jersey. Owen Farrell was very good when he came on. Depending on what happens with Dan Biggar, he didn't come back from his HIA, so very possibly Owen Farrell might end up playing 10 with Henshaw at 12 and maybe Chris Harris. But it certainly wasn't one of Elliot Daly's games to remember. It just didn't fall for him. He gave away a couple of penalties, and there was no great shock when he was substituted with Farrell coming in at 12 and Henshaw shifting to 13. So it does feel as though you'll see a change up of some sort in that partnership.
I was looking at Rory O'Connor of the Irish Independent tweeting about Cheslin Colby, that he had touched the ball once in 50 minutes, Quinny, which is absolutely bonkers. Whatever the plan was for Cheslin Colby from Warren Gatland and his coaching staff, I mean, it seemed to pay off.
Yeah, they put him under a lot of pressure. They didn't kick loosely to him, and they didn't have a lot of the ball at times. They couldn't build any sort of momentum in the first half. And I just think Colby, as Drico said it, if you have a winger that all you want to do, he's the best winger in the world, the most dangerous open field runner in the world, and you're not giving him the ball. There's no, as good as the South African backline is, Dialinde, Lucano, they're not really passers. They're more kind of offloaders and try and get a little gap and pop it out of the tackle. They're good footballers for sure, but they're not really, it's not part of their game to try and just whip it out as quick as they can and get it into the winger's hands, let him run at his opposition. So he never got any sort of opportunity to do that. He profits more so off loose kicks and broken field play, turnovers, things like that. And that seems to suit him. But I certainly try and use him more off scrum, off line out, even if he's very, very aggressive and powerful as well for a small guy. I try and get him running at the opposition backline, even carrying it up, because he has that ability to step through people. But it tells its own story. No involvements for him, really. Just kick chase all day.
I'm not Quinny. From a 13 perspective, if you saw Lucano running short and Cheslin Colby running out the back on a simple play, like we used to run a play, 10 to 12 behind 13 to the blind winger. That is made for Cheslin Colby, who can step off either foot, who can burn you on the outside. He could make mince meat of any 13 in that Lions setup if he's given pass in front of him with time and space. Not once. The one time that I saw him carry the ball was off 9, off a right-hand scrum, carried straight into Bear to give advantage line. I just find it so frustrating and almost infuriating that you can't get more out of a player of his caliber. I can only imagine how he must feel, because he plays this phenomenal brand in Toulouse. And yes, he's won the World Cup with the Springboks, but it's not the game the game they play is not the game that is best suited to his skill set. And he can win you a game on his own. We saw that in the World Cup with his phenomenal try. Okay, that wasn't just him. Brilliant performances across the board. But he has those moments of genius in him. Give him opportunities to produce them, because that's what, as rugby fans, that is what we want to see. And I can only imagine what he feels like going into the dressing room today, having so few moments to actually deliver anything.
Would you, if you were playing at 13 for the Springboks in that second half, would you have tried to just move the ball more, try and put it through the hands and get it into the wider channels?
They didn't test. They had no idea what the defence was like at Daly, who was having a little bit of a ropey game. So they didn't even test them at all. They just carried every single time. They had the same shape. They went 9-12 a lot, with 13 short, with the opportunity of pulling the ball out the back to Pollard, but they didn't go for it once. And that's a generic shape that you see lots of teams using. And it's all based on the lines of running of, as to whether you sit down the inside defenders and whether you might feel as though there's space out wide. But the fact that their go-to play is keep it tight, is don't risk, anything that mightn't play into their attritional game plan. It just is so frustrating when it doesn't work for them. When it does work, they win World Cups. When it doesn't work, it looks awful. And, they're going to have to really, they're going to have to take it off their own media, because they had that game in the bag in the first half with their performance, and they completely slackened off the second half, completely reverted to type. And somehow that's not enough against the best teams. So expect something a little bit more from them next week.
Briefly, lads, just before we finish up, predictions for how the series is going to pan out from here based on today's evidence. I mean, obviously we wait and see how injuries or HIAs figure out over the next couple of days, and how the teams look next weekend. But I mean, Brian, first of all, you predicted a narrow Lions win, and that's what's happened. Do you suspect a whitewash, or is it more so a 2-1 either way for the remainder of the series?
Yeah, I think it'll go down to the wire. I think the Springboks now will be better for an extra game. They'll be a little bit match sharper. I think they'll be absolutely bullying on the back of losing this test match. The Lions will not be as disappointing as they were in the first half, so they will improve. It makes for a mouth-watering affair. I think it'll be very, very close again. But I do think that the Springboks, just out of sheer necessity to deliver a performance, will do so. And you'll see, an enhanced version of what they delivered in the first half for longer periods next time round, with hopefully a little bit more of an offering as well, and getting the ball into Colby and Mapimpi. We barely saw him. It was one chip and chase that we saw from him all game. Villy LaRue, almost non-existent except for one or two pretty average Gary Owens in the air. So I really want them to deliver more. They can't go out on the back of a similar performance like that again, playing that style. They will be crucified at home. So I hope they go back to the drawing board and create deliver a little bit of creativity next week. And if they go down that way, so be it. But you can't go down 2 weeks in a row playing, kick contest and box kick. I don't know what the numbers are, but too many for our modern game. We've got our brand. We're trying to sell the game. That's not selling anything.
You thinking along similar lines, Quinny, finally?
Yeah, I think South Africa, they'll be very frustrated when they look at it, but it's not in them to be this open, expansive team. I think they just need to look. I think they were fatigued, and it's understandable, and great credit to the Lions. I think they can take so much out of this. They can go on to a different level. They gave away some sloppy penalties in that first half and didn't handle the ball well and deal with the pressure. Did it so much better in the second half. So both sides can take huge amounts out of it. But I'm kind of like Drico. I think South Africa will be a bit better. They have some brilliant players there. And if they try and, even get 60, 70 minutes next week. They only got 40 minutes tonight. If they get to 60, 70, I think they might level the series. But they need to be some bit creative as well. And that game management in the second half was really poor from them.
Listen, Alan, Brian, thanks a million for all of that this afternoon. Hopefully we get a decent couple of remaining tests, and even if it's half as exciting as it was today, we'd be happy enough. Thanks a million, lads.
Hi, Shane. Cheers.
Thanks,
Stuff, Alan Quinlan and Brian O'Driscoll there with us throughout the afternoon for that stunning win for the Lions, 22 points to 17, having trailed by 12 points to 3 at half time. The 2021 British and Irish Lions tour on OTB Sports, brought to you with Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Just what a match. Let's hope the remaining two tests are up to that standard, let's just say, and that the Lions were outstanding in that second half. Loads more to come on the show, but we've only got 20 minutes left, but we've a bit of GAA reaction to come. We've had a busy afternoon in the hurling, so we'll hear from some of those winning and losing managers after this ad break.
The 2021 British and Irish Lions Tour.
On Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Tech Bites with Jess Kelly.
It can be a bit overwhelming to buy a new piece of technology. How do you know if you're getting the best device to suit your needs and indeed your pocket? Tech Bites is News Talk's new YouTube series that puts the latest and greatest tech through its paces and explains what you need to know before you buy. On episode 1, I put the iPad Pro 2021 up against the iPad Air to see which is the best companion device and find out if the Pro is really worth the €1,300 price tag.
Tech Bites
from News Talk.
Watch episode 1 on News Talk's YouTube channel